My name is Ruth Montgomery, and I am the project lead for the Calypso Project.
Tell us a bit about the Calypso Project.
So, the Calypso Project is really a unique and very important project because it's about deaf people in Barbados. I feel really strongly about this because I am deaf myself, and I know the struggles and the challenges and the barriers that deaf people face in their everyday life, because it's a common theme with deaf people across the world. We know we face societal barriers. We have barriers to employment, with education, and we would like to see better provision. Perhaps sometimes we don't get access to good education, we don't have access to services. We understand all of those barriers and issues. For example, if I wanted to call a taxi, I can't call them. I mean, technology is improving and there is access that is starting to be put in place, but still things need to be improved. I understand the Barbados deaf community's frustration, and Bonnie Leon is an interpreter in Barbados, for a sign language interpreter for deaf people, and she really understood that frustration. My background is that I'm a professional musician, and I feel that opportunities, I've had great opportunities in England to learn methods to understand music, and I realise that deaf people have barriers, and I've used music within the Calypso Project to explore those issues and bring together the two communities of deaf and hearing people, and that is why we are here, and that is the Calypso Project.
So, how exactly is the project executed? Will the students be taught how to play instruments, or how are they taught to play instruments? Can you explain that a bit more, please?
The project will have deaf role models, professional deaf musicians involved, and so I'm to show what can be done, what is possible, and how creative we can be to show the work that goes on. That's the first thing. I'm working with the Barbados Community College with the Steel Pan Ensemble to have them involved. We have also professional musicians from Barbados involved to create new music with the deaf musicians. That's one element. We also have a deaf photographer who will be creating photographs for an exhibition of deaf members of the community here, and to really explore their stories, to listen to their life on the island, so it's both in both picture and written word. We have researchers and a teacher of the deaf here from the UK, one woman from England who is one of the first profoundly deaf people to obtain an English degree, and she became a teacher of the deaf and has been a specialist in this area for over 30 years. She's also was an assistant head in a deaf school in England. There's so much experience that she can bring to Barbados and share knowledge and share understanding, and an opportunity to show many ways of teaching deaf children to improve their chances, because we know the foundations of life come through an educational environment, and how to show how deaf people live on the island and whether their needs are being met, and what other opportunities are there to refresh and revive the community in terms of their access, and to helping to actually have their voice heard through music and visual art that the project will bring together.
Okay, so you mentioned the community college. Are there any other schools or places that you've visited or plan to visit while you're here?
We've visited the Irving Wilson School for the deaf. That was a fantastic experience to look at us as deaf musicians and professionals, and to see the deaf children's response to that we are deaf themselves, like themselves. We are musicians. I think it was an eye-opener for them when they met us at the school, and we're going to be back in June for the actual project itself and delivery, and they'll be delivering music workshops, so that we have an idea for them to be able to understand the calypso. It's an island, an island culture on which they live, and we want to be as wild and creative and work with deaf role models within the community and musicians in Barbados as well, so that they actually get to experience all of the full life in Barbados. I'm planning to work with the deaf community here in other ways. So in June, we will have a concert on the 22nd of June at the Frank Collymore Hall to show what we've created with the community, with the steel pan ensemble, with the artists, with the visual art and the photography, with the composers and performers, and we will have a very specific meaning. We will find a calypso vibe and song that really connects with the themes that we wish to explore within the project. And the second story is about the issues that we've heard from the community. And the final song itself will about working together and being proactive to see effective change, that we actually work cohesively within the society so that everybody has their access needs met. When we leave, we are hoping that they feel inspired and positive, and hopefully there's more deaf awareness raised on the island, so that means there's a mutual support between both hearing communities and deaf communities.
Just to jump back a bit, she mentioned she's a professional musician. What instruments does she play? Do you play, sorry? What instruments do you play?
Yes, I am a professional musician. I play the flute. I was born deaf. I was born to a family of musicians. My parents are also professional musicians, and I have 3 hearing brothers, and all of us have grown up with music in our family life. So I feel with music, for me, it's a way of expressing. It's so rewarding. I can either play solo, I can play in an ensemble, and it's a really special experience. So I studied music, I have a degree in music, and I'm very, very proud of that, because I think that's really opened doors for me to work with many, many different people, and also I work as a teacher as well.
Just so that I don't get it incorrectly, when I write, do I refer to you as deaf, or do I say hearing impaired? What is the correct term? So I don't get it wrong. I know there's always like some confusion or misunderstanding, so let me know.
You're very aware, and thank you for asking me. I describe myself as a deaf person. I'm a deaf musician, but many deaf people out there describe themselves as deaf or hard of hearing. But for personally, I'm a deaf musician. Oh, I also wanted to add a little bit, if I can also add, I set up a charity called Audio Visibility, because audio means sound and visibility is the visual element, and bringing those together, that's how we can create access to information, because we can see and hear at the same time. And I'm passionate that the future is for young people to have access to music in a way that encapsulates their access needs, and that they take ownership of that and take that music education forward. I'd say one of the biggest issues that has been expressed is a lack of awareness. For example, the communication needs is a really big issue. For example, being able to communicate in sign language. I think that's one of the biggest issues I've encountered. The other is about education and access to employment and career opportunities. Many of the deaf children here leave school without any formal qualifications, which means that obviously finding a job and progressing in a path of employment can be difficult. And what can we do to make those changes happen? Many deaf people have some fantastic qualifications, but they're not getting access to the employment opportunities. It's also about access to medical health care and health services, for example, to be able to access medical health care through sign language interpreter. And I think we're hoping above all to raise in awareness in Barbados that there are ways of making those improvements to improve the lives and opportunities of the deaf community here.
Then back to the music. How you said you are a trained musician. How has music assisted you to overcome some of the barriers that you might have otherwise had a harder time to face?
Can you explain a little bit more what you mean by that question?
You mentioned that music was an assist to you. Obviously, not everyone is a musician. So if you could say, how did music assist you through some of the challenges that you face?
It's a fascinating question, really. I studied music. I've played the flute for such a long time, and I've become really good at setting up solid foundations in music performances. So when I performed in situations and I play with others, I know that I've got a great grounding. It makes me stronger, really, and it makes me organised in my thinking. I think music gives me the confidence. Music makes me believe in myself. Music shows me that anything is possible. And I know that may be a strange concept to think about, but for me, that's how it makes me feel. Music is... Sometimes I don't necessarily have the words because music necessarily speaks for itself, but we're coming back in June for about 10 days, all told, and to do a lot of activities on the island with the deaf people and the deaf community, with the deaf students at Irving Wilson, hopefully with the media to raise awareness of the issues we're looking at identifying, and also to clarify the number of deaf people who actually live in Barbados. So hopefully that's where the social media and news elements can help us to really identify where deaf people are in Barbados, and also to attract people to be involved. There will be a live stream, fingers crossed, of the concert in Frank Collymore Hall, and we're creating those 3 new songs, but they will also be videoed and they'll be released at some point later on in the summer.
What is the date? I know you mentioned June. What exact date in June is the concert?
The concert is on the 22nd of June. It's one of the sunset concerts. Sunset concerts at Frank Collymore Hall. I'm hoping to play my flute with the steel pan ensemble and maybe with some drums. So I might have one small part, but I didn't bring my flute with me for this occasion. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the project has received massive support from various donors in the community. We've been working hard to fundraise this project for 2 years, and then COVID put everything on hold. So in all told, it's been 4 years, and we're so pleased that it's finally happening now. But we've had so many trusts and foundations that have donated, and also the charity in England called Decibels. And with that, the funding was able to come together for the project to actually go ahead. I've been working with the Barbados Council for the Disabled. They put an application in for us for some funding, so they're really a key partner and key player in supporting us for this project.